Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode, a little bonus episode of Square Triangle. Don't adjust your sets. It's not a triangle this time. It is kind of more of a square if you think about it. Anyway, we've got me and X because we actually watched Schrodinger's WrestleDynasty. Sharky was unavailable, but we thank him for his contributions to this episode via recording and editing.
Via satellite.
Sharky via satellite.
Right.
So we're going to talk about WrestleDynasty. I caught it. I had to, watch it in spurts, but I was pleasantly surprised that it was on in for American audiences, but three or four of the companies that were being represented were in North America, so go figure, right?
Right. And that was a good thing for New Japan Pro Wrestling, just go out there and adjust their times, to the North American audience. Because you have 4 different companies also involved in this pay-per-view. You had CMLL, you had Stardom, Ring of Honor, AEW, and that was just a fantastic job, trying to maximize your audience, to the best of your ability. And they put on a solid show. They really did too.
Yeah. So without further ado, I didn't really take any notes. We're going to kind of like freeform this. So we start off with the International Women's Cup Final 4-Way match. This is there's been a tournament throughout all of the wrestling companies that were represented. So we have like AEW, we have CMLL, Ring of Honor, and Stardom, and all of them sent representatives to participate in this tournament. AEW had Jamie Hayter, Queen Aminata, Serena Deeb, and Willow Nightingale. CMLL had Hanan, Saki Kashima, Yuna Mizumori, and Momo Watanabe. Ring of Honor had this is just like I'm not reading this well at all.
It's all good.
Whatever. But yeah, there were a lot of representatives, and the four women who came to the fatal 4-way after were Willow Nightingale, Persephone, Athena, and Momo Watanabe. Willow Nightingale, obviously AEW's representative. Persephone is CMLL's representative. Athena, the women's champion forever, being the representative of Ring of Honor. And Momo Watanabe representing Stardom. I didn't catch a good bit of this match. I showed up kind of late. What did you think about this match, X? Was there anything memorable about it?
Oh, there were a couple things that kind of stood out with me. These 4 women were very athletic in this, and it's not like one of those fatal 4-ways you see normally. It's just I didn't quite know how this was going to pan out, with 4 different women from 4 different companies, but they all just gelled together extremely well. One thing of note, though, I noticed that Persephone, when she came down, and this was kind of uncommon to me because, following Lucha just a little bit, about the history and tradition of the mask and all, she came down wearing her mask, but like midway through the match, she kind of threw it off. And I found that a little unusual. Then I looked that up, and then I just realized that she has been doing that for like a whole year. So that kind of stood out in a way. This was just fantastic. But you just get the normal stuff you get in a fatal 4-way. Everybody just kind of hitting this stuff. But yeah, Athena, by the way, Athena is just absolutely fantastic in this. She has been wrestling, I think, this whole, like, before this match, she was kind of wrestling the whole weekend on Stardom and stuff, and she's just fantastic. And she pretty much was a standout of this match to me.
Yeah, and all 4 of these women, I believe, have held gold at one point or another for one company or another. I am a forever fan of Athena. Her, million-day reign as ROH Women's Champion. And everything that WWE said, she could. Well, they didn't say, but they kind of implied with the way they booked her that she could never draw, or whenever the case might have been. And here she is being like one of the top attractions in Ring of Honor. And that's like the B show, granted, but to AEW, but it's still remarkable in its own right.
But if you're outside WWE, wrestling in a place like the Tokyo Dome or the Arena Mexico, that's like one of the two biggest places, you can perform in front of. For some people, it's actually a dream to just get out there and, wrestle these big matches in front of all these different crowds. And yeah, that had to have been really big for him. But normally, I just think that this match was a good start, because normally when they have these kind of matches to start off a big show like this, they're like these big multi-man tag matches and they get convoluted. This was a good opener, I thought. With one hell of an ending, by the way, because Momo Watanabe ended up winning this match by cracking Athena in the face with a baseball bat.
Sick. I remember that.
And that's just, and thinking back on it, when they kind of implied that's what happened, when they implied that's what happened to Rhea Ripley in the parking lot at NXT, to see that, I was like, oh, okay. So.
I remember like tuning in, I was like, oh shit, starting. And then the first thing I see is crack. I was like, oh, all right. Starting off strong.
Right. So she ends up winning the tournament, and she will basically get a shot at any one of the 4 champions in those companies. Yep. So I think if I had to guess, though, judging by the way that match ended, I think she might go after Athena in the Ring of Honor World Title, because you can kind of set up an angle out of that, where she comes to America and Ring of Honor to try to take the title from Athena and get another pin on it, because she did pin Athena once,
I beat you again.
Yeah, so
that's a good storyline. I fuck with it.
And that's your classic. I can pin you once before I can do it again, and they can have a big blow off match sometime at a later date.
Yeah. Next match. These were pre-shows, by the way. Next match is the Sons of Texas with Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara going up against House of Torture, which is Sho and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. For the Ring of Honor World Tag Champs. Moving on. not the biggest fan of Sammy Guevara in this house.
Yeah, the match was fine. I mean, I didn't have too much to say about it. It was pretty much a standard tag team match. There was some tequila involved.
Naturally.
One from Kanemaru, and then Dustin Rhodes decided he wanted to take a swig and spit in the face of Kanemaru. That was kind of the only thing that stood out, but this is just your basic standard tag match. The Sons of Texas retain. Big for Sammy Guevara. He got to wrestle in the Tokyo Dome and whatnot, but
I think Dustin Rhodes is 55 years old, and kind of moving around, not well. He's doing pretty good for being 55, but like.
Oh no, I don't know. I think he's in really good shape, though. I
think Billy Gunn's also in really good shape, but I also don't think he can go 30 minutes in a ring.
Oh no, because the thing about this pay-per-view, this is an AEW adjacent pay-per-view, but a lot of these matches in New Japan are really long. So like a 20-25 minute match, which we talked about in the past on some of these podcasts. That doesn't quite, that's kind of normal for New Japan. Outside of the US. This
match was the second shortest match, and the only reason the other match was shorter is because it was an exhibition, and that's all it was an exhibition.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
We'll get to that in a sec.
Yeah, but
Sons of Texas, whatever. Tequila was there in a spot, whatever.
Other than that, it was a normal standard fare for a tag team match like this, so it was what it was. But those were 2 matches that were surprisingly on the pre-show. Because the main show starts with the Lucha Gauntlet match.
Yeah, we've got Taiji Ishimori, we've got Hechicero, Kosei Fujita, Sobonado Jr., Master Wato, my favorite person in the match, Mascara Dorada, Titan, and El Desperado. This was something.
This was a spectacle to watch.
This was like this for me tiptoed the line between like straight up Cirque du Soleil and like an actual wrestling match.
Yeah, it did, and And also, this is kind of like their version of a casino battle royal for AEW, where all the participants will come in at 1 minute intervals. I have not seen too much of Master Wato, which we're about to discuss a little bit, but that guy's impressive.
He impressed me for sure.
He did. I think he won. I think they said he won the best of the Super Juniors. I think, this past year, and I can see it because this guy is actually incredible. Also, Mascara Dorada, by the way, he also impressed me as well. But it's not, the same Mascara Dorada that was Grand Metalik in WWE. This is a new guy. Yeah.
I think one of my favorite things about Hechiseto is everyone else is like doing flippy, and while Hechiseto can do flippy a little bit, he's mostly the guy that's like, that's stupid, sit down.
Yeah.
And I like that contrast.
Yeah, like Hechi is like one of those old school, like he's like one of those old school rudos.
Yeah, he's an old school rudo, and I said that when he was wrestling Bryan Danielson a few months ago, and I'll say it now. He's a hell of a talent. He's
because the thing I know about
he's putting people on pretzels in this match,
right? Because the thing is, the lucha guys aren't just all like flips and dives and shit. You got a lot of luchas, who are kind of big heavyweights. They do submissions. They do rest holds and all that other stuff. They wrestle like they wrestle technically like some American wrestlers would. And
it's the balance of how many versus how many. Because the luchas that CMLL and AAA bring out are generally the flippies, the commanders and whatnot. But every now and again, and I think that's what Bryan Danielson specifically wanted Hechiseto for that reason, is because they'll like grapple and like it'll be a technical spectacle. And it is, and it was. Taiji Shibori eventually wins, sneaks in a pinfall while the other people were down around the ring. Kind of after everyone was kind of like giving him like this bizarre wasteland.
Right?
Everyone just kind of like wham, 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 like over and over and over.
But yeah, he sneaks out to win. This is a great match. Again, crowd got pumped for this one. I really enjoyed it. I just really enjoyed it. Like I got no more. It was great.
Mm-hmm. Next up, we have Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Katsuya Shibata. Two of the three, along with Shinsuke Nakamura, who were like a generation of New Japan. And with this being the year that Tanahashi hangs it up, it's probably going to be a lot more exhibitions similar to this.
Yeah, because this is pretty much Tanahashi's retirement tour, much like John Cena this year. They both got the start to their retirement tours this week. Mm-hmm. With their retirements, I feel like this is just going to be, the end of a true era of pro wrestling. Because the last 20 years, these between Tanahashi and John Cena and guys like, Shinsuke Nakamura, Katsuyori Shibata, on WWE side, Randy Orton, Batista, these guys are disappearing, man. Like, we got Randy Orton left after this. Once Cena and Tanahashi retired, I think it's just him and Nakamura left.
Both of them are working safe as shit, so they don't have to retire anytime soon.
Yeah, they're trying to stretch their careers for like 10 or so odd years, but this just feels like a very true, end to an era of wrestling, that just repopularized the sport in general. Yep. We went from a really dark time in WWE. We didn't have that many pro wrestling companies after WCW and ECW died. And these two men just kind of, built their, Cena and Tanahashi together, they just kind of built their, they led the way, through that period of time. And I don't know, man. It's just kind of, it's
a little bittersweet, right? It's like watching, I don't want to say Hogan because Hogan's retired like 16 times. I don't want to say Hogan. Flair because Flair's also retired like 20 times.
Yeah.
But I think it's like almost like the first time Terry Funk retired and everyone was like, oh man, it's the end of an era. And then it was, and then he came back
multiple times.
Yeah.
But I love Terry Funk though, man. Yeah, we all miss him. But this match was just 5 minutes.
Just beating the shit out of each other.
This was just 2 minutes of them grappling, and then 3 minutes of them chopping the ever-loving life bars out of each other. That's it.
And the match was an exhibition. It's on the tin, said it was an exhibition. So it's fine that this is where it goes. So they just slap the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
In regular matches, when they do that, I don't like it.
I don't like it. So I was okay with this.
Yeah.
You know, overall. You know, I was okay with this, you know, and like I said, this is the start of the Tanahashi retirement tour. So we need him around for the next year. So we're probably going to expect to see more matches like that from him, you know, and
probably see a couple like this with John Cena too.
I hope so, you know, because these guys deserve it, man. They deserve to be, you know, they deserve to have, you know, a healthy retirement.
My little brainworm is saying that John Cena is going to be in the Hall of Fame this year.
I think so too.
I think so. I really want Kevin Owens to induct him. I think that would be really funny.
Yeah, they have history.
Yep. But yeah, this match was just two men slapping the shit out of each other, as is normal for a Katsuya Shibata match. But nothing really to write home about. The only thing that was super notable about this match was that Tanahashi had one of his knee pads said like "Thank you to the fans" from Tanahashi on it. I thought that was cute.
I thought that was really good. That was really cool.
Mm-hmm. However, next match, the next actual match, Mercedes Moné, Mina Shirakawa. This match was that close to being my match of the night. Just edged off by the actual match of the night that we'll get to here in a little bit. This match, they tore the house down.
Yeah, they did. It's like I said, you know, back during World's End, we're starting to see the best of Mercedes Moné. She's completely back, 100%. Her and Mina Shirakawa just tore this one down.
We have never been more back with Mercedes Moné than we have right now.
Oh man, like everybody that, and I think she just gets an unwarranted level of hate from wrestling fans in the IWC, and it's not fair to her because, you know, she was dealing with a knee injury. She had some things going on with herself. She pushed through all that. I think now we're starting to see the Mercedes Moné we saw in WWE. She can put on these high-level, high-profile matches. She's good, you know. And granted, although I didn't want Mina Shirakawa to win this, and she came away with it, you know, she is starting to look like the star that she was again. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody just needs to be a little patient with her.
I think Mina Shirakawa is on her way to being like the next like top talent. Like she was you saw that in Japan. She has a faction that she's a leader of. So
yeah, because when I was taking notes for this, I had not realized that Mina Shirakawa was not signed with AEW. She does make AEW appearances via Stardom, but she is still a contracted Stardom talent. Now, and there's only so much you can do with that, but I think when her contract's up, I don't know if she decides to stay in Stardom or go to AEW or somewhere else, but I do think she is going to command a lot of attention when that time comes.
I think there's going to be a nice little bidding war for her. I think she's a very good talent that any company could use.
Yeah, and like I said, she can go from ultra charismatic, you know, funny, incredible to just an absolute beast in the ring.
And the thing is, she could go. We've said this on the World's End pay-per-view. She can go from charismatic to sexy to like brutal in the same match.
Yeah, and she just turns it on at the switch of at the flip of a switch. Mm-hmm. You know, I think that and whatever she decides to do, she is going to be a star,
a big star in North America.
Yep. Like there's no ceiling for her right now. So good on Mercedes Moné and Mina Shirakawa. They put on one hell of a match. I thought
it was really interesting that the Rev Pro Undisputed British Women's Championship was on the line in Japan in the Tokyo Dome with 2 wrestlers who aren't in Rev Pro.
Yeah. I think they do that just to try to get their name out there. Because
sure.
with somebody like Mercedes Moné or Mira Shirakawa holding the title, that draws YouTube views or views to the websites and whatnot. So it makes sense to me. But I just thought it was a little bit interesting. That's a nice little side fact.
Fun fact: Jamie Hayter is one of the most has some of the most reigns on the Rev Pro Women's Championship.
Oh, she does. How many?
She has 2.
Oh, okay.
She vacated the last one that she had because she decided to attend a WWE tryout instead of going to a Rev Pro event.
I don't blame her.
Yeah, I don't blame her. Chase the bag.
But even though she didn't get in there, she ended up in AEW. So, I'm glad for that. She's been exposed to a North American audience in one way or another.
Mina Shirakawa also had a 134-day reign as the champion. That includes time that she was on AEW programming.
Yeah. So yeah,
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, 6 months is about the standard, the average for some title reigns.
But Mercedes Moné eventually wins this match. It was, like I said, this is a women's match you should watch. It is like whatever IWC opinion you have about Mercedes Moné is wrong. You try wrestling with the fucking broken or fucked up knee. I have fucked up knees. I can barely get up in the morning sometimes.
Yeah, my knees ain't the strongest either. So yeah, it takes a lot of athleticism to work through injuries the way that Mercedes has. So
in general, from this point forward, all of the I thought all of the singles matches coming up just absolutely cooked.
Oh, they did. And
it's mostly singles matches. So,
and of note, I just want to talk about the commentary team for a little bit.
Yes.
There was no Kevin Kelly, because
get his ass out of here.
Because for the most part, Kevin Kelly was one of the English announcers for New Japan Pro Wrestling, but due to certain situations he's been in, he's no longer involved with New Japan, I believe. The 2 announcers that they did have though, they did a really good job going over a lot of history with some of these matches.
Yeah,
and that was
very much so did their research.
They did, and that's kind of what made it a lot better in my view.
But the next match after that is David Finlay going up against Brody King. This is a showcase match with AEW and New Japan. One of like three or 4. This match is just 2 dudes beating the shit out of each other. The story going into this was David Finlay had recently lost. And he needed the win to prove that he's still the leader, I believe, of Bullet Club. Is he not?
Yeah, he's the leader of the Bullet Club War Dogs unit.
Yeah, so he needed this win to maintain that like leadership position.
Yeah. I think the story goes that the previous night at Wrestle Kingdom, he was the NJPW Global Champion, but he lost that match to Yoda Tsuji, who we'll talk about in a little bit because he was in another match tonight. And on top of it, some of these guys wrestled both nights.
Yep.
And David Finlay was one of them. He went up against Brody King. But the story goes that David Finlay was just trying to, prove that he was still, he was still.
He's still that. He's still him.
He's still him. And even though he lost the NJPW Global Championship, he needed this win to kind of get back on track. Only problem was he was going against Brody King, who was just tossing him around most of the match.
Yeah. You can hear Ghetto in the background being like, "Get the fuck up!"
Yeah, which was
great.
Like a lot of those, and this was noticeable a lot during the Omega match too. But these guys are just like, you could just, because the thing about New Japan is this crowd is very quiet during matches. Except when something exciting happens. It's not like an American crowd where they're just loud and screaming random shit all the time. They're mostly quiet during the match. So you can hear everything that goes on around the ring.
Yep. Yeah, and you can hear the managers or the people accompanying people to the ring like talk their shit, which is great because they don't censor it because it's a Japanese crowd. They don't care.
No, they don't.
But the finish comes where like Geto literally yells, "Hey, get the fuck up, David!" David Finlay goes for the finish and manages to keep Brody King down for a 3 count after being tossed around for however long.
Right. David Finlay's a good talent. I think his contract is going to be up soon. I believe in New Japan Pro Wrestling. I don't know if he decides to stay there or not, but I do consider him a top talent. If he does decide to stay in New Japan, he would be a good candidate to go after the IWGP Heavyweight Championship.
I think so.
Because he's built himself up over the last couple years or so, and I think it would be about time, for him to go after that title in general.
Mm-hmm. The second of our, I'll say 3, or sorry, 4. Well, I'd say 3 because 2 of them were title matches.
Mm-hmm.
Our showcase matches between AEW and New Japan is Shota Umino versus Claudio Castagnoli. This is another match where like the AEW talent was throwing around the New Japan talent for a good chunk of the match. Claudio definitely got his offense in as the person sent here by Jon Moxley to punish Shota Umino.
Yeah, they were kind of building a story around Shota Umino and his affiliation with the Blackpool Combat Club, which then kind of transformed into the Death Riders. From the way they were doing this, though, I got a feeling that we are going to get this storyline, continued down the line in AEW, quite possibly around Forbidden Door, because Jon Moxley refused to show up and battle Shota. So he sent Claudio over there. Mm-hmm. And I got a feeling that Shota is going to continue to fight members of the Death Riders. So I would expect a few American appearances from him shortly.
I wouldn't mind if like the next few New Japan events they kept sending like they'll send Wheeler Yuta or they'll send whoever else
or Pac to face him.
Yeah, to face him. That would be interesting. A pipe dream I have is like the next WrestleDynasty or the next like big crossover event they have in Japan specifically in the Tokyo Dome that something happens and all the Death Riders are there and they're beating the shit out of everybody and Moxley goes down and then Christian Cage just comes out with his briefcase that he won 2 years ago.
We're just itching for that Christian Cage cashing at some point, but it's coming.
Okay, they always make a point to show him in the backstage, just kind of like looking with his briefcase.
Yeah,
it's only a matter of time.
But yeah, Shota wins this match, after overcoming everything Claudio threw at him. He's one of the top guys in New Japan Pro Wrestling. I think he solidified his spot this weekend. Mm-hmm. New Japan Pro Wrestling is trying to identify its younger talent and the future for the future of the company going forward. Yota Tsuji, Ren Narita, and Shota would probably be the big 3 right now. Mm-hmm. And judging after, one of these next 2 main events, I would throw Gabe Kidd in there also.
If Gabe Kidd decides to stay with New Japan, which it seems like he is given, his bleeding New Japan loyalty. And mm-hmm. Speaking Japanese in the match, we'll get to it in a little bit. I think he's going to be one of the aces of New Japan for a while.
Yeah. So New Japan kind of has their pillar of guys that can carry the future of this company moving forward.
Mm-hmm. But the next match, oh baby, this match was a slugfest. Konosuke Takeshita, Tomohiro Ishii. Takeshita had just won the Never Openweight Championship the day before, I believe.
Yeah, at Wrestle Kingdom, the night before he won the titles. Both titles are on the line. Yes. Against Tomohiro Ishii, and this was my second favorite match of the night.
Yep, this was a slugfest. These two beat the fuck out of each other.
Exactly. And if you like those kind of big heavyweight matches where they just absolutely smash the shit out of each other, you will love this match. And a couple of surprises, also from Ishii and Takeshita with them just kind of busting out,
pulling out a fucking Poison Rana, like almost breaking his own neck.
Yeah, and then Ishii doing like a Frankensteiner. That was really odd too. So big guys doing cruiserweight stuff.
Ishii's got that like build like the Steiner brothers in the 90s, so that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. He can pull that off. But that Poison Rana from Takeshita kind of caught me off guard. I was like, I never see that big motherfucker do this. But but as usual, Takeshita strikes on point. That's like one of my favorite things he does is when he just does that, when he just cracks back on that forearm and just knocks the piss out of people.
When he does that running knee.
That running knee, everything. Like this match had it all between these two.
This was a really good match. All these matches are of like a great length as well. Most of these matches, except for like the exhibition and the tag team match that I don't really give a shit about, were over 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think there was like somewhere between 20-30 minutes, I believe, for a lot of them.
So 30 minutes was one of the main events, and then 20 minutes was the main event. But yeah, Takeshita retains after finally getting Ishii down. 1, 2, 3, got him, and still, insane for Takeshita to go night after night, winning the title and then defending it the next night.
And during the post conference, Takeshita announced that he is now a part of New Japan Pro Wrestling's roster. He is signed with them, so now he's basically signed to like 3 different promotions, which is DDT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and AEW. So he's got a lot of work ahead of him in 2025.
Collect that bag, dude.
That's what he's doing.
Yep.
And the international championship, he's really legitimizing, as an actual international championship. He's defending it around the world. So yeah, good on Takeshita, man. I still believe that was the best. That was the perfect choice to put the title on that man.
It really was.
And it's proven that in spades right now.
Takeshita's 29 years old.
Yeah.
He's got so much career up ahead of him, and he is already proving like he is going to be. I keep saying this, guys. I've been glazing this man for 2 years on this podcast. He is absolutely worth the hype.
It's the never-ending glaze.
Yeah, it really is. Like, that man can do no wrong. Like, he is a heavyweight, but he moves around with athleticism that's like a Shelton Benjamin. And it's a spectacle to watch. He's got all of the tools, and he will be a world champion very soon, I think.
Yeah, and good on him, and another thing is good on him adjusting to all these styles too. Like he's gotten AEW television down, he's got New Japan Pro Wrestling's pay-per-view workload down. The guy's very versatile also. We're just kind of learning more and more about Konosuke Takeshita as we're going along. Yep. So he's taking us on a really good journey here.
He's certainly he's gonna do so well. Our next match is going to also Don Callis was not on commentary in this match, I don't believe.
No, he wasn't, but he was at ringside though.
He was at ringside, but he wasn't on commentary, and that made me sad.
Yeah.
Don Callis is the best commentator in AEW, which is also sad. Anyway, next match was a triple threat tag team match to get the vacant IWGP Tag Team Championships. It was between United Empire, Great O'Khan and Jeff Cobb, LIJ, Los Ingobernables de Japón, with Tetsuya Naito and Hiromu Takahashi, versus the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks finally making their way back into wrestling after having taken a prolonged EVP absence with AEW after losing their titles to Private Party.
Mm-hmm.
So what better way than to come to Japan, I guess.
Of note, the Young Bucks did not have their usual EVP gear on, nor did they have their AEW music. They went back to the New Japan Pro Wrestling music, and they had their regular gear on. They were just talent there. And I think the commentary team, pretty much lauded that fact out. This was a good showing by all three of these men. Hiromu Takahashi came out looking like a baseball mascot, and that was weird. But I guess that Tim, he has like his history of doing Wrestle Kingdom outfits, WrestleDynasty outfits, and whatnot. Yeah. So overall, this was a fantastic match. Everybody put forth effort in this.
I think it was. I'm not usually like the biggest fan of the big flippy spot matches. With the first one we had, notwithstanding, because I thought that one was really good.
Yeah.
But I thought this one, everyone, like you said, everyone kind of got their stuff in. But eventually the Bucks take the match.
And also the Bucks talk a lot. The Bucks talk a lot during this match. Again with the quiet crowd, they were just getting all their little quips in. Also, hey, like do something super badass. Suck it, see ya. And this was constant throughout the match. And it got a little annoying after a while, but it was what it was.
They are the heels, so
they are heels, so whatever, it makes sense. Yeah. But other than that, the Bucks win. They take the IWGP tag team titles. I think it's like the third reign now.
Mm-hmm.
So what that signals me is they're going to be in New Japan for a little while before they give that up and return to AEW.
The point is, it's going to be. I have no idea how these guys do it. Where they're like, these guys are literally EVPs for AEW.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to, in theory, at least attend Zoom meetings at like fucking 2 a.m. for Japanese time.
Yeah, because it'd be like in the middle of the it'd be like at night over there and like early morning over here. It's like a 12-hour time difference.
I guess depending on what their responsibility is as an EVP, because you have different responsibilities as a vice president or yeah.
Yeah, but so yeah, they're gonna be in New Japan for a little bit, and maybe they bring those titles back to the US for maybe a match or two when they eventually do return. But yeah, I think putting the Bucks as the tag team champions kind of reestablishes them, because New Japan is in rebuilding mode for 2025.
Yep.
They're just trying to identify their top talent. And the best way to start a rebuild is to put your top titles on established veterans, at least the ones you got left.
Mm-hmm.
Now NXT did with Tommaso Ciampa. It's the same here.
Yep.
Zack Sabre Jr. is the IWGP World Champion right now. He's been an established veteran. He's been a staple in New Japan for a while. You just use those guys to try to build up new stars with.
Jack Perry was a champion in Japan, wasn't he?
No,
a little bit.
If he was, it was probably for a brief spell. I can't remember.
This last time where he was there because he was like escaping CM Punk. Oh,
something like that. I don't know. No,
he wasn't. He was a DDT champion, but that doesn't really count.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. We've got Yota Tsuji versus Jack Perry, the aforementioned Jack Perry, for the IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship. Another solid match. Yota Tsuji, one of those pillars that we were talking about. That New Japan can build over if they decide to stay after this during this rebuilding period.
Right. And like I said, I hadn't seen much of Yota Tsuji. This was kind of like my first weekend of actually seeing Yota Tsuji in action, and he's pretty good. He's a little charismatic also, but ultimately I just think he's he's pretty decent. And I understand why New Japan would kind of make him a pillar, because he can actually put on incredible matches, and he actually kind of cuts good promos also in video packages. So yeah, you got kind of a good a guy right here that can carry for a little while. One of the guys you can carry a company with.
Yeah, for sure. I thought this match was solid. I have a hard time liking Jack Perry sometimes because he looks like an ex-girlfriend of mine. But it's the hair, man. It's the hair.
It's the hair, probably. Yeah.
But taking that out of the equation, I thought this was good. I think Jack Perry works a style that is compatible with most other wrestlers on the roster.
Mhm.
He kind of like he kind of works with the other person, which is something that a lot of heels don't really do. They're like, no, I'm doing my style, and you either take it or you don't. But Jack Perry's style lends itself more to like a collaborative process, especially with wrestlers who don't necessarily share a language, for example.
Yeah.
I don't know how good Tsuji's English is,
but as far as Jack Perry goes, this is kind of a prime example of taking lemons and making lemonade out of it.
Mm.
What a turnaround he's had since the incident with CM Punk at All Out a year and a half ago.
Honestly,
God, I mean, this man has had such a turnaround. He took that, I think he took that energy that he had from that, and he put it into something good. He built his character around that, and it turned out to be one of the best things he could have done for his career. Because before that, it's like we talked about before. Jack Perry as a heel before was just missing something.
Mhm.
I mean, he had the heat, he had a look, but it was just
Jack
missing
Perry-
something.
Jack Perry as the heel before the scapegoat character was just baby Christian Cage.
Yeah, and it didn't work at all. So
it was a little forced.
So I'm glad and again, I'm glad he found that he turned that situation around. He's been TNT champion, and he's gonna have a lot more success. Jack Perry is just incredible.
Yep. Tsuji retains it in this match. Like I said, good match. All of these singles matches, every single one of them without exception cooked. Everything from like Mercedes on down to Mercedes and Mina Shirakawa, all the way down to Zack Sabre Jr. and Ricochet. Every single one of them cooked.
Like, if I had to say anything about New Japan Pro Wrestling, their singles matches are probably the bread and butter of that company.
Yep.
Because their tag matches and their multi-man tag matches sometimes fall a little flat. Or I'm just not interested in them. But whenever it comes to their one-on-ones, they're always good.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I can always say about New Japan Pro Wrestling, and even they're dependable in that area. You will get good singles matches from this company.
Yes. And then we go to one of the only legitimate double main events I have seen in a company that has said that they have a double and or triple main event. The first of two main events, returning Kenny Omega and Gabe Kidd. Kenny Omega having faced diverticulitis. For those of you who don't know, in your intestine you have diverticula, and when that inflames, it is extremely painful and often fatal. So never mind not ever wrestling again. Kenny Omega could have died, and he has come back from that and put on this masterclass that had Hiromu Tanahashi like crying.
Yeah. If anybody was concerned about Kenny Omega after that illness that he suffered, don't be concerned at all. This was the best I've seen Kenny Omega in quite a long time. And he's had some incredible matches, but this was like old school Kenny Omega.
This was like
AEW.
This was like best bout machine Kenny Omega.
Yeah, you got the full best bout machine. That man continues to prove why he is one of the best in the world and has been for the last decade or so. And on top of that, this is one of those kind of matches where stars make matches and matches make stars.
Yep.
Gabe Kidd is now on the map.
Gabe Kidd is a star.
I know a lot of people, in IWC were like, who the fuck is this British guy who's always talking shit? He has sunglasses on. Gabe Kidd can back his stuff up, y'all. What I saw from this guy in this match, this dude has every single tool to be a world champion. And I am not kidding.
Take a quick step back, because as Kenny Omega was coming out, he announced that he has collaborated with Masayoshi Soken, who is a composer for Square Enix, and he has been since 1998. your favorite song in Final Fantasy 14 and your favorite song in Final Fantasy 15, he composed them. He also collaborated with Nobuo Uematsu, who was a legend in Squaresoft audio compositions. And I forget there was a third person.
Jason Miller, who provided the vocals.
Jason Miller, who was doing like the vocals for the match or for the entrance theme. The entrance theme is a Final Fantasy 14 as hell entrance theme.
It is.
If you know, you know.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure anybody who's a Final Fantasy, mark and saw this match and saw that and heard the entrance music, they probably went crazy. Because it's a really good theme too. I'm probably gonna go look that up later tonight, see if it's available. But yeah, that's when you know how much pull you have. Yeah, you can just go get Nobuo Uematsu to do your intro. That man
only works for projects he wants to do at this point in his life. He does it. He's older. He's getting up there in years, but he only works on the projects he wants to work on. So you got him in there, you're set.
Like him, there's two Japanese game composers, that shaped my childhood in a major way.
Exactly.
One was Nobuo Uematsu, the other one was Yuzo Koshiro from Sega.
Yeah.
With all the Streets of Rage music that he did, and man, to get a theme from either one, to get something out of either one of those guys, that's got to be big. It really is.
It's huge. Anyway, back to the match. Now, I got that out of the way. Go back to the match.
It much needed.
This was a slugfest. I didn't expect it to be. I don't know why I didn't expect it to be so much of a slugfest. This was my first introduction to Gabe Kidd. Everyone who was anyone kept saying, "Hey, these guys, this guy is insane. He's a nutcase. I hope he treats Kenny well because we need him back in AEW," was something we said during the World's End broadcast or the World's End video. But man, this was impressive. Like I came out of this a fan of Gabe Kidd.
I think you just need to start buying that Gabe Kidd stock because, like I said, this guy is going to be a world champion. You get in there with one of the best wrestlers on the entire planet, the guy who has been consistently on top for the last decade or so, and you go in there and pull that kind of a match with him, you're going to be shooting up to the stars from here on out.
Yeah.
And they took some nasty fucking bumps in this match, by the way. Like, there was this one spot where Gabe Kidd had set up two tables, and Kenny Omega kind of slung him through that.
That was I think brutal.
Yeah, I think he hit it. He may have hit his head on one of the corners of the tables or whatnot, and he started bleeding.
Yeah.
But there was that, and then there was. Oh, go ahead.
It was very interesting watching. Again, your diverticula inside of your intestine, you cannot see them normally. So to sell the injury that hopefully Kenny Omega has been cleared from and can wrestle. But to sell that so hard is an exercise because you can't see that, right?
Yeah.
Because the match, Gabe Kidd is working Kenny Omega's like stomach area, and Kenny's selling it like death because I would too. He's got surgical scars there.
Yeah, that's just a good detail though. Trying to sell something that still might be bothering you a little bit, which pretty much tells you he's not 100. Well, he's not 100%. Well, which he is because he's cleared to wrestle. But that was a good detail in that match.
Yeah, I thought that was remarkable.
And then there were the three unprotected headshots from the chairs. Ooh,
Jesus Christ. Gabe Kidd hits the first one. Kenny Omega hits the second one. Gabe Kidd hits and then Gabe Kidd hits the third one. And then Kenny Omega goes to the fourth one. And finally, one of them is like, let me put my hands up real quick.
Yeah. Like, for the record, unprotected headshots you don't see very often anymore.
It's because they're bad.
because they're bad for long-term health.
Yeah. There are ways to there is a way to do it and not concuss yourself, but
yeah.
It ain't great. It's you know, a pound and a half of steel going onto your head. It ain't great.
At a very fast swing, it is bad for your brain.
Yes.
And you don't see them anymore because now when you see wrestlers do chair shots, it's to the stomach or it's to the back. But
or they have their hands up like this.
Yeah. So when you see unprotected chair shots, you know, it's just like that one years ago what Cody did with what's his name, Sean Spears.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays it'll just make you uncomfortable if you're not accustomed to seeing that. Because back when we were growing up, we saw this like every other weekend.
Like they would just beat the shit out of Mankind with like 20 chair shots to the head.
Yeah, and I remember there was this one clip of The Rock like who hit Ken Shamrock dead on in the face with a steel chair.
I remember seeing that the interview Ken Shamrock did. He's like, "You better swing it, or I'm not gonna sell it." And he goes, "Oh, I'll fucking swing it." Wow.
And the Rock just absolutely bats the shit out of Ken Shamrock with this chair, and it's like we used to see that, you know, regularly growing up, but now it gets a little uncomfortable because you don't see it that often. So it's like, ah, damn, man. It's like shit.
It also gets uncomfortable because of the whole CTE thing. You know, no one wants to be the next Chris Benoit, right?
Nope, not at all.
So that's another risk of it, right?
And wrestling's come a long way from those days, and we just want these guys to, you know, walk away from this career healthy as possible.
Be healthy, not have a double murder suicide. Yeah, we want all of that.
Exactly.
This is much in the line of like the package pod driver that I was talking about with Kevin Owens, where you don't see it that often. So when you do see it, it looks cringe. It looks like it hurt.
Yeah.
Anyway, like I said, masterclass. This was a masterclass in wrestling and the absolute limits that you can take. One of the other side storylines to this match was Bryce Remsburg was a referee, and Gabe Kidd took umbrage with that, not liking that he was an AEW official. And eventually, there was a spot where Kenny Omega does the dive off of the ropes onto Gabe Kidd. And it also knocks out Bryce Remsburg and the other members of Gabe Kidd's faction that I'm blanking on the name. War Dogs?
War Dogs. Bullet Club War Dogs.
Okay, so he's Bullet Club War Dogs. So he takes everyone out at once. And so they're just fight. The unprotected chair shots were when Bryce Remsburg wasn't even in the ring.
Yeah.
And then Red Shoes comes out. I hadn't seen Red Shoes in a while, so it's good to see him.
But yeah. Also, of note, this match also got one of the New Japan Pro Wrestling commentators suspended indefinitely. I think his name was Chris Charlton, because he said something during this match about talent being taken from New Japan Pro Wrestling, and I think he inadvertently called Tony Khan a money mark, although he didn't say his name. We knew he was referring to.
Who he was talking about.
Yeah, and this pretty much I think set off some of the officials of New Japan Pro Wrestling, because I'm pretty sure he tried to do it as a work, but in Japan they don't take those things lightly.
Take kindly to that, yeah.
Yeah, so he got suspended over that comment.
He's lucky he didn't just outright get fired, because that is a big no in corporate Japan.
Yeah, Japan's a very business centric country.
Yeah, but it almost got a little hairy between him and God, I'm forgetting the wrestler that was on commentary. Rocky Romero. Yeah. It almost got a little heated between them. They were kind of like jabbing at each other. Like that felt like if it was a work shoot, because that got a little personal.
It did. And like I said, and that's why that was another thing I kind of noticed too. It's like some of this commentary does seem like it's a little personal, But I think they were just trying to push like AEW versus New Japan Pro Wrestling rhetoric.
Sure.
Yeah. But
that rivalry was in the ring as well, with Gabe Kidd not even wanting to listen to Bryce Remsburg until Red Shoes came out.
Good old Red Shoes. It's always good seeing them.
Yeah.
But
eventually, Kenny Omega comes out with the win. Diverticulitis be damned.
Like I said, this match set the tone for the rest of the year, and I felt so bad for this next main event.
They had to follow that. That was insane.
Had to follow that. This was a match that put Tanahashi in tears, like you said earlier, and you could just tell Tanahashi just loves this, man. This was
Tanahashi is a fan of the sport.
This is what he envisioned when he took over the company. He wanted this back. He wanted this kind of feeling back, and I think he got it.
Yep. Kenny Omega went from, let's see, when was World's End? World's End was December 28th. So, God damn it. One sec. So, December 28th was a Saturday and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
So he went from World's End, doing his appearance there, to going all the way to Japan, probably having to be there for Wrestle Kingdom, and then wrestling WrestleDynasty.
Again, don't worry about Kenny Omega. He's fine.
He's fine, but also, Jesus Christ, that travel is hectic as hell.
It is. But, you know, if they are going to put him and Okada, against each other at All In, I would slow down on the those kind of matches with Kenny Omega. I would have him just, have him be around building up, storyline and whatnot. But if you're trying to get him to July, don't have him do a whole bunch of stuff.
I think he's gonna do a more on-screen official role in AEW and save the wrestling for New Japan.
Yeah.
Which is good because New Japan's schedule is significantly more lax than like their matches are more in depth, but they have less matches overall than a weekly episodic show like AEW has. They have what, three of them?
Yeah, some to that effect. Although I know they have Dynamite and Collision now because Rampage is gone.
Oh, RIP Rampage.
Rest in peace, Rampage. That ended extremely perfect still.
That was cool. John Moxley saying that is exactly how I want a guy who says he's changing AEW to be under his banner to do that. Is to be like, okay, this show is over forever now.
Cut it. Cut the feed.
Cut the feed.
That's it.
That's it. And I still want him to be in the back booking matches. Anyway, we go to our actual main event of the evening. It is Zack Sabre Jr. against Ricochet. Ricochet takes on the role of the high flyer in this match. It's not to say Zack Sabre Jr. can't, but we all know Zack Sabre Jr.'s bread and butter is submissions and strikes, kind of a la Bryan Danielson a little bit, but with more of a emphasis on British holds, if I could borrow the phrase. More of the joint manipulation type submissions.
The catch as catch can style of British wrestling.
Yeah.
Like I said, this match, this was a pretty strong match, but God, I felt bad for Zack Sabre Jr. and Ricochet because they had to follow that incredible match that was on previously. But Ricochet in a short period of time has heated up. He went from, just a few months ago being in WWE, just, taking L's left and right. And now we got him wrestling in the Tokyo Dome.
I think that's a really good, notch on Ricochet's belt, is being able to wrestle in the Tokyo Dome, because that's not something even his peers in WWE who jobbed him out left and right have never done.
Yeah. And, he just, and like I said, sometimes when wrestlers leave companies, it's good for them because they can get better opportunities elsewhere. Okay, pro wrestling is not just WWE. It's global. It's worldwide. You can get big opportunities wherever you go as long as you're good enough. Ricochet's proven in the past that he is a top tier talent in the world. Maybe he's not that great on promos, but that's something he's getting there. Going from that to the Tokyo Dome is really a big deal. It is.
There's certain wrestlers, when they're on the way out in WWE or even AEW, you kind of watch them phone it in a little bit. And Ricochet was definitely phoning it in towards the end of his career in WWE, and most of that's because you're just being booked to lose. Fuck it. But some of that is in my opinion, of your own doing when you're kind of like, oh, this is what I'm doing again. Oh boy. Which I don't necessarily blame the talent for doing, because you kind of work yourself, you do the house show circuit and you kind of work yourself into like a routine of like, okay, I do this and then I do this thing and then I do this thing. And you know, you're doing it over and over and over and over. And then you go to TV and you do it. And it's not going to look as good as it would if you had just like practiced it, you know, a couple of times and like gone over the match with your opponent and then done it on TV. Again, that is my opinion of somebody who doesn't want wrestlers to work every single day of their lives, even if they're getting paid several hundreds of thousands a year.
Yeah, and like I said, that sometimes that can affect you in a way. You know, that's why some guys, once they leave big promotions and they go to like the indies or some other promotion, they don't do as well, you know, because they're not willing to put in that much work and effort. Ricochet has mostly been the same guy, you know, since leaving WWE. Only now he's just putting in just that little bit more effort now.
Yes.
You know, and he's getting bigger opportunities. He just main evented the New Japan's biggest pay-per-view of the year, which is the first one of the year. You know, that's the one that sets the tone for the rest of the year, pro wrestling wise. To go from WWE to that, it's kind of impossible. Well, it's not impossible, but it's hard.
It hasn't even been that long. The last time somebody did that was Chris Jericho, I think.
Yeah. So
because Chris Jericho called out Kenny Omega like weeks after he left WWE.
Mm-hmm. But
something like that.
Yeah, something like that. But anyway, this was a solid match, though. You know, Zack Sabre Jr. has hella good submissions. You know, and there was this one point where Ricochet flipped off like the guardrail, and he caught him into a cravat. And I thought that was creative.
That was super creative.
You know,
the different kinds of ways that Zack Sabre can like move your spot into like a submission hold, and that truly was the finish of the match. Is Ricochet going for a
spirit gun
or a spirit gun? And he countered that into his finish, into his submission hold, to the point where Ricochet had to say, I submit, instead of like actually tapping out.
Yeah, because it's like he had him in like a brutalizer, but when Zack Sabre Jr. does it, he like twists your wrist like that, really far back. So yeah, like Zack Sabre Jr. is just such a great technician, you know, and not too many people wrestle that kind of style, you know, these days, because everybody goes for big moves and dives.
Everyone
and all
wants to be the highlight reel. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, but you know, it's just nice to see somebody, you know, that can wrestle like that consistently and still be pretty over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the pay-per-view. That was, you know, these matches, like I said, these matches, with the exception of the one tag team match I don't give a shit about, and the literal exhibition match, were all over 10 minutes, with them two main events getting like 50 minutes by themselves. So I think this is how you do times for a pay-per-view event.
Especially one of this magnitude, you know, because this is Wrestle Kingdom and WrestleDynasty. You know, Wrestle Kingdom, well, it was 2 nights of Wrestle Kingdom, but, you know, they decided to do WrestleDynasty this year, you know, to involve all the other promotions. This is a tone setter for the rest of the year. Like I said, you know.
4 different companies.
For 4 different companies. 5 if you include WWE. Because, you know, they pay attention. Let's be real honest. They pay attention to this.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
For sure. At least mostly the wrestlers do. You know, because you can't be in the same business and not pay attention to all that stuff.
There was that story that went around when Danielson was like on his way out of WWE, and he was like doing more creative stuff behind the scenes, or like as a writer. And Vince McMahon was like, told him like, what is AEW doing? Or asked him, what is AEW doing that we aren't? And so Bryan Danielson watched AEW programming on Vince's dime for, you know, however long, and was like, okay, this is what they're doing, and kind of just wrote everything.
Yeah. And that's what it is. These guys pay attention to everything. So, you know, they're going to go out there and try to put on some bangers this year as well.
Yep.
Like I said, this is the reason why I keep saying this. Multiple wrestling companies that have visibility around the globe are good for wrestling in general. Okay? It's good for everything. WWE included.
All ships.
Yes, it does. That's a good quote, by the way. It really is. But But it proves true in professional wrestling, man, because one pay-per-view sets the bar, and then everybody else just tries to go out and just outperform it, you know? And it's good because that's what brings this whole thing up. So good on Wrestle Kingdom, New Japan Pro Wrestling, WrestleDynasty. You guys set the bar for the rest of the year as usual. And it's going to be a fun 2025 in pro wrestling, I believe. We're going to get some good stuff this year. And sadly, some goodbyes.
Yeah. So just one last thing I want to talk about now that we've gotten WrestleDynasty out of the way. It is in the rearview mirror. We have gone over it. Now we could talk about our this week in wrestling, because not only was there the biggest pay-per-view in New Japan Wrestling, there's also two different companies. Like, wrestling is at its biggest that it's been in a very long time, since like I even want to say this is bigger than the Attitude Era.
It is bigger than the Attitude Era, I think. Yeah, I know, unpopular opinion, but it is right now.
I think it definitely is. Just the mainstream appeal that it has that it did not have back then. It had like alternative appeal, like alt bands were on there and stuff like that, but it never truly had like mainstream appeal. Now it does.
This is gonna be the year where wrestling truly goes global, because streaming rights deals are now in effect. Okay, the Raw on Netflix has begun. They had their first show Monday night. Dynamite on Max is tonight. It's their second show. In their new rights deal, wrestling is going global. So all this talk about cable ratings and TV ratings and all that stuff, that's going to be a thing of the past.
Don't give a shit.
We don't care. It's going to be a thing of the past.
I haven't cared about cable ratings because I don't have a Nielsen box anyway. I don't care.
Neither do I. Cable ratings are a thing of the past, and we're entering a new era of television and technology where everything is global now. It takes one TV deal or one streaming deal to reach a wide audience around the world. So AEW and WWE are going to be in houses all around the globe now. So you got millions of people watching these things, and you're going to see wrestling hit new heights that you haven't seen in forever, and probably they're going to surpass them.
I think Pat McAfee said it like the most succinctly on Raw. 85% of the world's population has access to Netflix. So like that is huge.
That is hundreds of millions of people around the world who have reach and can watch WWE now. Same thing with Max. It got millions of people around the world who have Max now, and they can watch that as well.
So, what did you think about did you watch them like on Max and or Netflix?
I watched Raw on Netflix last night, and I thought for what they built it up, it was a decent show, but it was kind of horribly paced. It was.
I think some of that is like getting used to a new format.
Yeah,
but I do agree that it was kind of poorly paced. But I do think it was because it's a new like format that they're getting used to.
And on top of that, they just had so many things they had padded into the show with celebrities and returning legends and Travis Scott smoking a joint on TV.
That was so fucking funny.
I fucking laughed my ass off at that. And one of the greatest things, and one of the things that made my soul completely happy, Hulk Hogan getting the shit booed out of him in LA. Thank you, LA, by the way. I love y'all for that.
LA, y'all are real for that, LA.
Y'all are real for that. I love y'all for that so much. That was the biggest thing that was talked about on his special on social media.
Yep.
Yeah. But overall,
I think both shows had some pacing issues, to be honest.
Yeah,
they
did.
I think AEW's were less noticeable because that's kind of how they were wrestling for a long time anyway. But I do think both shows would benefit from like going back to picture in picture during commercials.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna have commercials, fuck it, you're gonna have commercials. But I think that both would benefit from having picture in picture because
honestly,
they didn't have it on Max.
On the streaming side, I think they should just do what they did with Fight TV and just like go no commercials. Because I know like when AEW was on Fight TV, they just kind of they did commentary through the commercial break. So maybe do that every once in a while.
Doing that because they need money.
I know that. Well,
they gotta pay the bills.
It's wishful thinking, Deca. I know. But, you know, I just wish that they would have go to picture-in-picture format a lot more, because I think, you know, you don't want to take the audience completely out of it.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't think that's I just don't think that's ideal, you know, especially now that we're in this era of streaming. You know, picture-in-picture should be utilized more often. But that's my thoughts on it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's Wrestle Kingdom. I think we've kind of talked about as much as we're gonna get out of that, because that was, like I said, phenomenal show. If you only watch any match on that card, please watch Gabe Kidd and Kenny Omega.
Yeah, because
it's the third that came out. What? WrestleDynasty was January 5th. 5 days in 2025 already came out with Match of the Year.
Yep, a Match of the Year candidate and basically the tone setter for the rest of the year. Yep. So 5 days into 2025, we got a Match of the Year candidate, and I'm excited about it. If this is going to be how this is going to, if this rest of the year is going to be how this is, wrestling wise, this is going to be a fantastic year, because everybody's going to just try to top that.
And very few are going to do it, but I think they will.
Probably Will Ospreay in his little top 10 matches again.
Jesus Christ. The top 10 list for Will Ospreay by himself.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's our little bonus episode on WrestleDynasty. We both, I for months was like, hey, we're not doing anything else in January. Let's just do WrestleDynasty. And everyone's like, well, it's going to come on at 4 a.m. And then it didn't. And Thank then God. It didn't.
That's why we're covering this right now, because they wouldn't no way in hell I was going to get it before the morning to watch WrestleDynasty. So good on New Japan Pro Wrestling for, you know, changing that for us. We appreciate it.
At any rate, that's been the show. We have all of our information. Our socials are in the bottom if you want to subscribe to our content. Like I said, most consistent podcast on the Without Context podcast group. We've got damn, Sharky does this so well.
So go
ahead.
We got the Royal Rumble coming up February 1st. It's not taking place in January for once this year.
For once.
So we got the Royal Rumble coming up February 1st, and we also have AEW Revolution coming up in March.
That's going to be in Australia. I do not know if I don't know if we're getting that one.
Well, if you got Max, probably.
That's fair.
Yeah. I think they probably might put that one on Max. Oh, and one more thing. We also know when Forbidden Door is taking place, thanks to New Japan Pro Wrestling, because they went down all of their major event sheets this year. They went down their major event sheet for the year during WrestleDynasty and Wrestle Kingdom. We are getting AEW Forbidden Door on August 24th of this year in London.
Ooh.
So the big show this year, the big London show, is going to be, you know, All Elite and New Japan Pro Wrestling, and quite possibly CMLL and Stardom.
Most likely they're running it back again.
Yeah, because you can get your biggest audience with all of those crowds, you know, for London in that one big pay-per-view right there. So that's a smart thing to do.
At any rate, like I said, it's been the show. We are on Spotify. If you are watching us on YouTube, we have a Spotify link that'll be down below. If you are watching us on Spotify, you can see our faces on YouTube. Wearing my little bullet clip shirt. But I'm Deca. That's X. We are 2/3 of Square Triangle, and we'll see y'all next time.
Bye, everybody.
I'm going to chime in real quick here at the end.
Yeah.
What are the percentages that when they went backstage, Hogan looked at Jimmy Hart and said, I didn't know they hated you that much, buddy?
I was saying boo, brother.
Boo, brother.